What's going on, people? So, a little bit more information. Hopefully my phone's recording right. I already did update on it. Today, the topic came to my mind to record this video. Not just the Packard, all brand new trucks, not brand new from 2000, let's say 12 and up till current 2025. So when you plug in your scanner, for some reason, if you have a scanner, at least like we do at work, and I do have one here, there's always going to be some sort of code stored regarding communication. So on a J39, lost communication with the ABS modular, lost communication with the engine modular, transmission modular. At one point in time, it had an event where it lost the communication. So I'm thinking, it's like, why do we have this problem? So at UPS, where I work, their rule of thumb, every time you get out of vehicle, you have to shut it off. It's a package car that delivers the packages, or it's a semi. So the guy will move a truck 10 feet and he has to shut it off, take the key off, restart it, shut it off, start it. So it creates a lot of events where you starting and shutting off the vehicle, which they concerned about the safety and stuff like that. Whatever, they big fleet, they dealing with that problem. But every time I plug into the truck to check because something's going on, there's always going to be in the storage lost communication with something. If you're an owner operator, you don't do that. Shut it off, start it up. You usually let the vehicle running so that event doesn't occur and the ECM doesn't store that problem. But if it does, you might want to look in what I show you, or you might want to invest if you do repair. That's a really cheap battery tester. And on these new trucks, because they have so many modulars and they run it on a data bus. So picture what I was explained to me, it's a school bus. And in the school bus, we're going to have a driver, which is the engine. Then we're going to have a transmission modular. Then we have a ABS modular, traction control modular, HVAC modular, adaptive cruise modular. So there's 10 modulars for the example. And what's the most takes the power from your batteries? It's usually your starter. When the van creates, you turn your ignition on, all your ABS is clicking, and you start cranking the engine. In a truck, seems like it started just fine, but there's a threshold. So when the voltage gets under X amount of voltage to certain modulars, they start freaking out. So then the engine doesn't see ABS modular, or transmission doesn't see ABS modular, because if you have automatic transmission, there's a computer for it. And then one will delay the sending information message to it because that guy is low on voltage on this school bus. And then like the TCM's not here or ABS is not here. And then he's like, nope, I'm here. I'm just delaying because I'm low on the voltage. And what happened is you probably have not a clean connection someplace. So the battery terminals is a very important to keep them clean. And what procedure we do at work, it's a good procedure. At least lubricate them. They look good. I always spray penetrating oil, which I mix penetrating oil with the transmission fluid. Seems like you put a heavy coat on and then builds in with the dust, and then don't let the corrosion. So anywhere is the metal and electricity goes through it, the air corrosive to that copper or brass, whatever they're using for the connections. But the number one thing it gets missed is on the starter, because the main cable runs from a battery into your starter, from a starter to the alternator. They really corrode it. On the Volvos, seems like I'm prejudiced on a Volvo, but on the Volvo trucks, they all have a check light on. Not check engine, it says check light. So usually you plug into them and there's communication. The Volvos, for some reason, they really hard to start, and they have even more modulars than any other truck. So you have to, usually people, and I'm talking about the owner operators, not even the big fleets. My truck starts fine, whatever, it runs, don't care. But that's something gets missed on your PM, which is preventive maintenance. You do oil changes, fuel filters, air filter, whatever. If you do yourself, obviously you're not going to take it to the dealer, but you should pay him extra to check all your batteries and check all your connections, because you will solve yourself a tremendous amount of problem. It's one thing, it will store the code, but if it goes under a certain threshold and you do that often enough, and then it throws the check engine light, and then it can derate, and it will think the computers will think you actually have a problem. It's gonna say either short or open circuit, etc. Nowadays, I really get frustrated. The trucks, mechanics of the trucks, it got so heavily rely on the computers, it is absolutely insane. I think the mechanical side of the truck, we actually did make a huge progress. They are much better. But then, like my previous video, EGR valve actually has a modular. It's DPF system emissions, it has modular, so it controls that. And it is very important to have proper voltage. If you have 4 batteries, which majority of trucks do have now 4 batteries, one of them start failing, it will drag the other 3. And then in a cranking event, when you're trying to crank it, it will go under 10 point or 9.8 volts. And by the time it gets started, takes whatever needs to start the truck, it does not have release enough voltage to all the modulars, and then it start having freaking out. On automatic transmission, which is Eaton, they actually can fall asleep. I see maybe a handful of times when the guy pulls in and it says, hey, my back door, on the trailer can't close it. So he shuts the truck off, and then he's like, all right, we fixed it, good to go. And he started and he's like, the truck doesn't start. Like, what the hell is going on? And you go in, right where the shifter is, it'd be flashing light either on the dash or on an older style, it'd be on the shifter, service light. You're like, okay, so you turn it, doesn't do nothing. Well, you pull the fuse off, turn the ignition on, shut it off, or I don't remember exactly, you have to leave the ignition, but pull the fuse to reset the system and then re-wake it. The voltage drops so low with the transmission not falling asleep, and then it's not gonna start. Because when you start your truck and move it 5 feet ahead and then you shut it off instantly, by the time it reboot itself, by the time you draw the voltage from a batteries and then they gotta be recharged, you have to give it time. It's not instant. And then you shut it off and you're trying to restart it again. The event occur when it's actually under certain trash hole, if I'm saying that right, the voltage, and then one of the modules will fall asleep. And the engine and the transmission modular is most too important. They have to communicate. If they don't communicate between each other, either engine's not gonna start or transmission will not shift. They can run without ABS or traction or HVAC or adaptive cruise or something like that. You're just gonna have a bunch of lights on. But those two, engine and the transmission, they pretty much like a kings in the truck, they have to communicate with everybody else. Everybody else sending data to them, and they release a little bit of data. If that makes sense, not quite the same, but they are in the, like picture a school bus, like I said before, and they are the priority. They one on the driver's side, one is on the passenger side, and everybody's behind them. So they have to communicate and have to listen to everybody else, what they doing, and that's how they get their information. And the voltage and amps, it plays the big role. So once again, if you do preventive maintenance yourself, oil changes, stuff like that, that gets missed even by professional mechanics at the dealers. The connections and connection and the battery testing only being done when there's a problem with the starting. It's not gets checked on the regular routine maintenance. I would recommend to do that. Like I said, special when it's a brand new truck. And if you do it yourself and you don't have it, this is the cheapest version. It's not the greatest, but it works. It's right there, it says when you push this button right here, obviously you gotta have it hooked up to the battery. It will show you how low it's. What it basically is just a real thick wire and you heating that wire up. And it will tell you if your amperages is right. So it's pretty much like a starter, but you just cheating the system. You're not starting, you're just loading in the batteries. And if your batteries is showing weak and you being in the shop where it's warm, can you imagine what it does when it's cold? So if you have that battery and you're like, screw it, I'm gonna make it someplace till I change it. No, you better off just unhook that battery, because you can create yourself a problem. Then you're really gonna have to go to the dealer and read what your problem is, and then the problem will be just from a low voltage, but they will tell you you have to change sensor or something else. So that's all I got. Thanks for watching all.